Major Chinese electric vehicle maker BYD is under scrutiny for cost-cutting measures that have reportedly caused some cars to make tractor-like noises. On January 24th, a BYD hybrid vehicle was recorded making an unusual noise while driving on the highway. The sound, described as similar to a tractor's engine, quickly drew attention. That day, I hit the road just after 5 a.m. The car was fully charged and fueled, and I even set the battery reserve to 70% on purpose. But after driving for just over an hour, the battery suddenly dropped to 25%. I was going about 60 miles per hour when the car switched to hybrid mode, and then it started shaking violently. It scared me so much that I immediately pulled over to the emergency lane and turned on my hazard lights. I contacted BYD customer service right away, but all they told me was, please take your car to the dealership as soon as possible. My car is a BYD Han DMI Champion Edition, which I got at the end of last August. It has a total mileage of over 16,000 kilometers, and I've only driven about 5,000 kilometers in hybrid mode. The dealership told me all 4 spark plugs had failed. When I asked why, they said it might be the fuel quality. But I've always filled up at Sinopec. I always had maintenance done at the end of October, and no one mentioned any issues with the spark plugs. In the end, BYD took no responsibility at all. Many online users questioned the explanation provided, noting that if all 4 spark plugs had truly failed, the vehicle would not have been able to move at all. The loud engine noise suggested the powertrain was under excessive strain. In online discussions, many concluded that the main issue was BYD's lack of sufficient power output for the vehicle. This particular BYD model weighs over 2 tons, but is equipped with only a 1.5T turbocharged engine. In comparison, Toyota's RAV4 Hybrid E Plus weighs 1.7 tons and comes with a 2.5-liter naturally aspirated engine. The Toyota Camry Hybrid, which weighs 1.6 tons, also features a 2.5-liter engine. Toyota uses larger engines to ensure sufficient power under various driving conditions. According to automotive experts, for BYD to match Toyota's performance, it would need at least a 2.0T turbocharged engine. During the Chinese New Year holiday, multiple BYD owners reported losing power on highways, with a range of different technical issues cited as the cause. On the first day of the Lunar New Year, my family and I took our 1-year-old Fan Changbao Leopard 5 on a road trip. While driving through a highway tunnel, the car suddenly lost power. My whole family was terrified. Luckily, there was no rear-end collision. The dealership later towed the car and found that the dual-motor control module had failed. Thinking back, I still get chills. If the car behind us hadn't braked in time, who knows what could have happened. This brand takes no responsibility. Every time there's an issue, all they say is, the manufacturer has no policy on this, or the manufacturer isn't planning any changes. If you're looking to buy a car, make sure to do your research and choose carefully. One BYD Han EV owner reported that his car, which has been used for 3 years with less than 30,000 kilometers on the odometer, suddenly displayed an EV restricted warning while on the highway. The power system shut down immediately, and the vehicle is still in the process of battery replacement. The after-sales team has not yet provided a clear explanation. Another BYD owner experienced a sudden loss of speed while driving on the highway. He was still 30 minutes away from his destination, with a 7-kilometer tunnel ahead. He mentioned that just 5 days earlier, the engine coolant pump module had been replaced, but the issue resurfaced. One frustrated owner took to social media to voice his complaint, fearing his video might be taken down. Instead of speaking, he added bold red text at the start of the video, labeling his car as BYD garbage. He wrote, "The power cut out while I was driving. Pressing the gas did nothing. And right during the Lunar New Year. How am I supposed to trust domestic brands after this? This is a huge loss. I'm never making this mistake again. The diagnosis says the battery needs to be replaced. But who's going to cover my losses? It's the holiday season, and everyone's on break. There's no telling when the repairs will be done. I bought this car for convenience during the New Year, and now I'm completely stuck. All they ever say is, there's nothing we can do. They just take advantage of regular people. A car that costs over 100,000 yuan gets a sudden price cut, and I put up with it. But when a real issue happens, they don't fix it right away. I'm never buying domestic again. Adding to the controversy, on January 24th, BYD announced a recall of nearly 7,000 Fancheng Leopard 5 plug-in hybrid vehicles produced between October 16, 2023 and February 1st, 2024. According to BYD's official statement, the issue stems from the dual motor controller, which contains two metal plates that should have been tightly secured with bolts. However, the bolts were not properly fastened, leaving a gap between the plates. This component handles high electrical currents, and when electricity passes through the gap, it can create sparks. These sparks generate extreme heat, which can cause surrounding components to smoke and, over time, potentially catch fire. This defect poses a serious safety risk for consumers. However, BYD attributed the problem to the manufacturing process, insisting that it had no connection to the company's advanced technology or strict quality control. The recall has led to significant losses for car owners. They are required to cover both the repair costs and any financial burden associated with the recall. Once the repairs are complete, the vehicles will carry a maintenance record, further reducing their resale value. Some have drawn comparisons to Volkswagen's 2013 recall over DSG transmission issues, where owners did not have to pay anything out of pocket. The handling of the Leopard 5 recall has left many BYD owners deeply frustrated.
我作为一个豹5的老车主
I spent my hard-earned money to support our domestic auto industry, but I never expected my car to break down in the freezing weather, leaving me stranded on the highway with no working heater. To this day, no one has given me a clear answer about what went wrong. Then BYD suddenly announced a 50,000 yuan price cut, slashing the resale value of my car to practically nothing. Now, they're saying the dual motor controller bolts weren't tightened properly, and the car needs to be recalled to prevent potential fires. I used to take my whole family on long trips in this car. What if it had caught fire on the road? Would we even have time to escape? Just thinking about it sends shivers down my spine. Many online discussions now suggest that BYD's repeated price cuts raise concerns about quality. Some consumers are now approaching potential purchases with greater caution. On the same day that BYD announced its recall, Xiaomi also recalled its SU7 model. These vehicles were produced between February and May last year, with a total of over 30,000 units affected. In November last year, reports surfaced of at least 100 Xiaomi SU7 vehicles colliding with stationary objects while using the automatic parking function, leading to minor crashes and scrapes. Some online users calculated that Xiaomi has sold a total of 130,000 cars, meaning this recall affects more than 23% of its vehicles. The recall rate surprised many, prompting discussion about the importance of careful decision-making when purchasing a car. Xiaomi attributed the recall to an issue with the Smart Parking Assist system, failing to detect stationary objects. Automatic parking is considered one of the most fundamental features in intelligent driving, yet this was where Xiaomi encountered problems. Previously, during the product launch, Xiaomi CEO Lei Jun had praised the company's automatic parking system as an industry benchmark. Xiaomi handled the recall discreetly, referring to it as a routine software update required by regulations, rather than a major issue. This approach sparked further criticism. Some questioned why Xiaomi, despite having billions in cash reserves, had not developed an original design, but instead appeared to take inspiration from Porsche. Western media compared the Xiaomi SU7 with Porsche's models, noting a strong resemblance to the Porsche Taycan, with many details similar to the Panamera. Some overseas analysts commented that Lei Jun was once seen as a pragmatic and meticulous business leader, but now increasingly resembles Huawei's outspoken Richard Yu. Some question whether Chinese entrepreneurs have all adopted a similar approach under Xi Jinping's leadership, where bold claims and nationalist rhetoric are prioritized. Lei Jun has also set ambitious goals, claiming that Xiaomi aims to become one of the world's top 5 automakers within a decade. Industry analysts pointed out that the current 5th largest automaker globally is the Renault-Nissan-Mitsubishi alliance, which sold 6.3 million vehicles last year. To reach this level, Xiaomi would need to generate annual sales of 1.3 trillion yuan, making it comparable in scale to China's 4th largest company, behind only State Grid, PetroChina, and Sinopec. However, Xiaomi's financial performance tells a different story. The company's revenue has been declining for 3 consecutive years, from 328.3 billion yuan in 2021 to 280 billion yuan in 2022, and further down to 271 billion yuan in 2023. Analysts noted that while Xiaomi's core smartphone business is shrinking, the company is making bold claims in an entirely new and highly competitive industry. Following these recalls by Xiaomi and BYD, BYD faced yet another major setback. On February 8th, short-selling firm GMT Research released a report claiming that BYD has been using supply chain financing to cover up its mounting debt, which has now ballooned to over 500 billion yuan. At this rate, it could collapse like Evergrande at any moment. GMT Research, a firm specializing in financial and operational analysis of publicly traded companies, has a history of identifying corporate crises. It previously published a short-selling report on Evergrande before the company's collapse. The report claimed that BYD is using supply chain financing to conceal its debt, has drawn significant attention. The practice essentially means that BYD delays payments to suppliers, relying on their funds to maintain cash flow. In some cases, payments are postponed for up to 275 days, with an average delay of over 140 days, far exceeding the industry standard of 90 days. Instead of direct payments, BYD issues bank promissory notes, which suppliers must cash at banks. However, banks charge significant fees for this service. For example, if BYD issues a 1 million yuan note, a supplier may only receive 950,000 yuan after fees, with the bank keeping the rest. Industry analysts warn that this practice is not only unfair, but also unsustainable. Suppliers need financial stability, and prolonged underpayment could force them to either end their partnerships with BYD or cut corners in production. Ultimately, this could impact vehicle quality, affecting consumers in the end. BYD currently earns just over 7,000 yuan in net profit per vehicle sold, yet its debt has surged to nearly 600 billion yuan. Based on these figures, the company would need to sell 80 million cars to cover its liabilities. In 2023, BYD sold just over 4 million vehicles, meaning it would take roughly 20 years to break even. The company is heavily reliant on market share and high sales volumes, making any decline in sales a potential risk.
Look
at BYD's sales in January. It sold 300,000 units, ranking second in China. The top spot actually went to Geely. This was unheard of before, and BYD panicked, immediately slashing prices. Then on February 10, they held a press conference, announcing that all models priced over 100,000 yuan would come with autonomous driving. Some analysts believe this might temporarily boost sales, but if BYD's so-called smart driving ends up causing accidents, it could become a major liability. At that point, selling cars would be at the least of their problems. It could put them on the same path as Evergrande. This uncertainty has led some investors to take a cautious approach towards BYD. Following GMT Research's short-selling report, BYD's stock price fluctuated, and even Warren Buffett reduced his stake in the company to below 5%. Some have suggested that BYD could expand its overseas markets, but its international reputation has faced challenges. Recently, Brazilian media reported that workers at a newly opened BYD factory were subjected to forced labor conditions. Reports stated that 31 employees shared a single restroom, worked extended hours, and were required to work all 7 days of the week. The Brazilian government classified these conditions as forced labor, drawing comparisons to modern slavery. Concerns over labor conditions at BYD have also raised questions about product quality. Industry analysts suggest that vehicles produced under such conditions may struggle to meet international standards. Markets in Europe and the United States have strict quality requirements, but even buyers in emerging markets, such as Turkey, may be hesitant. Meanwhile, Xiaomi has also faced scrutiny after reports of its autonomous parking system malfunctioning. These incidents have led some international buyers to reassess whether Chinese automakers may be prioritizing rapid expansion over product reliability. In response to the Brazilian government's inquiry, BYD public relations manager Lu Yunfei dismissed the allegations, stating that officials were making unfounded accusations. He claimed the reports were an attempt to discredit Chinese companies and damage relations between China and Brazil. This approach has drawn comparisons to China's wolf warrior diplomacy. Rather than addressing the labor dispute, BYD framed it as a political issue, turning a workplace controversy into a broader geopolitical matter. China's electric vehicle industry has received strong government backing, with authorities promoting domestic automakers as symbols of national achievement. As a result, companies have made bold claims about surpassing Tesla in global sales or becoming the world's leading EV brand. Under Chinese regulations, such statements could be classified as misleading advertising, but enforcement remains limited. Much of the industry's so-called core technology has been acquired from foreign sources or reverse engineered. Product quality varies and safety incidents have been frequent. However, within China's policy-driven system, electric vehicles have been positioned as political achievement, shifting from durable consumer goods to fast-moving products. This has left consumers with limited options beyond aggressive marketing. One analyst remarked that Chinese EV companies have never won on technology, but they've never lost when it comes to marketing. As one of China's top EV brands, BYD has embraced this approach. The company heavily promotes its sales figures, market share, and revenue, branding itself as a symbol of national pride. At the same time, recurring quality issues and safety incidents have raised concerns, affecting perceptions of made-in-China products. Concerns over labor conditions at BYD reflect broader issues in China's industrial sector. Long hours, low wages, and forced overtime have been reported across various industries. In a system focused on rapid economic growth, worker protections are often overlooked. Many Chinese laborers have been conditioned to believe that government policies are essential for survival, reinforcing the idea that enduring harsh conditions is necessary. Looking ahead, some analysts warn that China's EV industry may face a market correction. As government subsidies decline and competition intensifies, consumer expectations are shifting. Companies that prioritize marketing over product quality could struggle to maintain their position. For BYD, which has faced repeated recalls, management issues, and labor controversies, the risk of financial instability remains a concern. Some industry watchers have drawn comparison to Evergrande, suggesting that BYD could face similar challenges if underlying financial risks are not addressed. In global markets, experts caution against being swayed by the low prices of Chinese EVs. They advise consumers to look beyond marketing campaigns and consider potential risks related to product quality, safety, and labor practices. Some warn that supporting companies with questionable business practices could further entrench a flawed economic model, potentially impacting both workers and consumers in the long run.